The wine served in this Parisian restaurant doesn't taste like your average wine. It's a bit like fruit juice. It's really nice. You can really taste the grapes. We're in the temple of so-called natural wine that's as close to the fruit as possible. It's becoming increasingly popular. The restaurant owner, Pierre-Jean Coup, is an ardent defender of natural wine.
No commercially produced yeast has been added to the wine. It is fermented only with the wild yeasts native to the grapes. It is fermented only with its own sugars. It has not been filtered, and there are no added sulfites.
So there are no additives, and only the sugars and yeast already present in the grapes are used in the fermentation process.
It may seem extreme, but these winemakers are not even producing 1% of French wine. It's just a simple return to the past, to what our great-grandparents would have been drinking. It's about going back to our roots.
There are just a handful of wine growers in France adopting this back-to-basics approach. There are currently no precise figures available, but there are somewhere between 150 and 200. They've small vineyards which rarely exceed 10 hectares. Olivier Cousin is one of these indomitable few, and he produces natural wine from a vineyard he inherited from his grandfather in Martigny-Briand in Anjou.
I have 3 hectares of Cabernet at the foot of the chateau. These are old vines planted in 87. The ones further up were planted in 96. And right up at the top are 1.5 hectares of vine planted in 1947.
Like 90% of natural wines, the ones Olivier produces are organic and made with the utmost respect to nature. We're talking biodynamic agriculture, meaning the wine growers don't use any chemical products and let nature do its work. Olivier even has a horse working the land.
We're getting the vines ready for winter, so when we plough, the soil is pushed towards the foot of the vines, and we get rid of any weeds.
No artificial products are used in cultivating the vine or in making the wine.
This is Grandfather's secret cellar. I think yeast is the worst thing about conventional wines. It turns natural products into industrial ones. The biggest problem with wines nowadays is we know what it's going to taste like from reading the label. When I taste my wine, I might say, that smells of Cabernet, but it doesn't smell of sulfur. There isn't any. It doesn't smell of black currant. There's none of that either.
But there are some disadvantages to natural wine. Because there are no added sugars or foreign yeasts, there is obviously more risk of spoilage.
What's complicated with natural wine is that the wine differs from one year to the next. Some vintages do not ferment, and these become sweet wines. And then some years they over-ferment, and we are left with wine that is too dry. Sometimes it's sparkling, sometimes it's not. These are white button mushrooms, but we also grow pink button mushrooms, which have more flavour, more of a mushroomy taste. We only supply fresh produce.
Which is why Pierre-Jean Coup describes these wines as alive or living. Experts don't always appreciate this somewhat unpredictable nature of natural wines.
If we want to produce a wine for laying down, I don't see how we can have a long fermentation process of 2 or 3 weeks without using sulfur to protect the wine. We risk ending up with 1/3 of the vat being a very good wine, and then the other 2/3 tasting like vinegar. It's an ideological concept. The idea of natural wines is wonderful. Wine without sulfur. We believe in it because we believe in balance, morals and ethics. But we do need to intervene from time to time. If we are looking to produce a great wine, then man has to intervene in the fermentation process.
Even though it's not compulsory to inform consumers of the vinification method used, there is still no specific labelling for natural wines.
I would like to see a secondary label for wines produced in France, which details the vinification method used, the yeasts added, whether or not it has been filtered, the sulfur content, when was it added, and how much.
Pierre-Jean Coup serves this natural wine by the glass, and he also regularly uses it in cooking. Here, for example, he's making seasoned rabbit.
So I'm deglazing. I collect all the juices. I'm only using natural wine, of course. We only use natural wine in our cooking.
After deglazing, he adds carrots, onions, stock and a bouquet garni. It's then left to stew at a low temperature for 1.5 hours. And it goes without saying, this seasonal dish is served with natural wine.